bringing you the latest news, game updates, insights, highlights, and everything Liberty Hockey. This is Rock the Rink, where Liberty Hockey lives.
Welcome back to Rock the Rink. Got another episode. It's Game Week edition.
Right.
Liberty Hockey is back this week. Men's D1 and D2 both have their home openers, so we're super excited for that. A lot to dive into, a lot to break down. But first, the Rock the Rink podcast from now until mid-November will be brought to you by the Virginia Army National Guard. The next greatest generation is now, and it begins with you. Get a head start on your career in exciting fields like science, communications, engineering, and medicine, along with tuition assistance in the Virginia National Guard. To learn more about the Virginia Army National Guard, check out Join VA Guard on Facebook and Instagram, or email us at nationalguard@liberty.edu. That's nationalguard@liberty.edu. All right, guys, so home opener this week, men's D1 playing UNC Friday at 7 p.m. I mean, we got to see a little taste of the men's D1 team last week. They played the Westchester Wolves in a pair of exhibition games. I mean, any initial thoughts? It was our first chance to really get to see those 10 newcomers on the ice, see the way they work with each other, maybe see some possible line combinations, D pairings. What were your overall thoughts?
Well, first thought was obviously it's true what a lot of people said. This is a lot of talent coming in.
Yeah. Exactly what I was going to say.
A lot of skill, and you could also see a lot of speed, right? Like the guys were flying up and down the ice on multiple chances. So credit to Westchester because they did a lot of good things, right? But you could also see, unfortunately for Liberty, chemistry's not there yet. Right, and so obviously that's the point I think of those games, to figure out some chemistry, start getting them playing together. So then when it gets go time, I think they'll take it to another gear this Friday, because also too those games are a little harder to get up for. But yeah, it was a lot of good things you saw across the board from LU in that game.
My thoughts exactly what you just said, sorry, Pat. My bad, right? Yeah.
Brother from another mother.
We've been saying these things about this guy, that guy, or just this team kind of coming in and coming together. And yeah, it was exactly right. You know what I mean? It was like, all right, that guy was he was who we thought we were gonna be. So that's super exciting. And then still some question marks out there, but also just a lot of answers that I kind of thought there. And then saw him yesterday, so it's fresh in my mind of when you do lose a goaltender like Hunter Verostek, people are going to wonder some things and question some things. But Nick and Conrad, those guys grind. They've been working so hard. I thought they came out and put together 2 good games against a team where when we were playing Westchester, they hadn't fully made their team yet. So that was this team's World Series. They had to prove themselves. So for the boys to step in net for those 2 games and have the games that they did, I was super pumped. So Nick and Conrad we're in good shape coming into this year, goaltending wise.
Yeah, and could you talk a little bit more about what you've seen from those 2, just as you've gotten things going? Because when you lose a guy like Hunter, I mean, he's been leading your goaltending group for years now, and then it's it's finally Nick's year to step up and be the guy, or Conrad's year to step up. How have you kind of seen them, not only want to step up and take on that leadership role, but also, to kind of, you have a little bit of competition with each other. What's their demeanor been like?
Yeah, what's nice is nothing has changed, right? From the first time I met Conrad and having coached Nick last year, these guys are just they're just going to show up and go to work, if that sort of makes sense. They're not asking me for hey, I need to this or anything wild or out of the ordinary, which is exciting because that means they're confident in their team, right? As a goaltender, sometimes you'll do a lot more when you're not confident in your defense or in your defensive systems. It's all right, I got to put the team on my back here. But they're just showing every day, going to work, and that's super exciting. And there's just an air of they're always the last guys in the weight room, meaning they're just doing a little bit more, a little bit extra, and that's just sort of normal for them. So that's exciting, and that's what I want to see.
Yeah, and I think, too, with them, you can already see, like, there's a mutual respect there, but there's a healthy competition there, too. And that's what you want. Like, I think that's going to push whoever becomes the guy later in the year to really excel, because they're both, like, not only rooting for each other, but they're also pushing each other to be the best they can be, so Liberty can be the best they can be as well.
It's interesting. I was just thinking about that. This is the first time in a long time we haven't had a number one, like, in Hunter going into the season. Like, several years?
It's been at least 4.
That's crazy, right? So it kind of, it takes you back. It takes you back almost like 10 years ago. I feel like it was the last time we're really at this point, because we had Blair Bennett, who was like the guy in the crease for a while. Right. So kind of thinking, and even before then was Colin Way. So you kind of go to like the Pedersen Brownie era of Liberty hockey, when you kind of felt like you didn't have a starter. It was like it could be either guy on any given night. So it's gonna be interesting this year to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and from those 2 exhibition games, I think people who like particularly stood out to me, I was at game 1. Liam Cocksmith looked great. I know there's been a lot of hype around him and what he's going to bring. Mac Ratzlaff as well. Yeah. It was also just a ton of fun to see both the Feemster brothers on the ice. Yeah. I think Joe had a goal, Sam had 2 goals in that first game, and they just hug each other after every goal, and it was just really cool to see. A lot of buzz, a lot of energy. So that was fun. I mean, I wasn't at game 2. Was there anybody else who you thought like showed up as advertised, or you're really excited about from those performances?
Yeah, I think you said Mac Ratzlaff. Like, I was impressed with his speed. I was Hayden DeMars and DeBrito. I think once those 2 get it together, because it looks like they're going to play together, and works out because they know each other, I think they will come in and fill a much-needed depth role, you could say, for the Flames, and definitely light the lamp and feed off each other. Liam Cocksmith, like you said, looked good. I thought on the back end, Joe Feemster, I thought he looked very good. Smooth skating defenseman, also has a little offensive touch too. So, just a lot of them. Like, I was very impressed with the entire rookie group, right? Like, I don't think none of them looked out of place. And I also felt like we said the pod before, I feel like this is a year Liberty will have 4 lines that can roll and contribute in multiple ways, and not only scoring, but then just also in their role.
Yeah. And I'm also excited just to see on the back end, particularly the roles that guys take on just in these first couple games, because you got a lot of returners, but, there was a lot of injuries last year. Yeah. It wasn't really a solid, consistent group, so kind of just seeing the way that group forms over the next month or so. I'm excited to see the ways. I thought Last Cable played really good in the exhibition games, so just seeing the way that the guys who have been here are progressing from year to year, and seeing what they bring.
That was the name I forgot about last week. I was like talking about puck-moving defenseman. I was like, I can see his face, but his name just blanked on me. I could not think of Laz's name. So add him to the list, right? Like,
there's so many.
He's the one that's leading the charge too, like, when it comes to puck movers and wanting to get up on the rush. So, that's the number one question in my mind is who's gonna sit back. Going back to last week's conversation.
And I think those are the 2 answers right now in the room. Like that, I think the coaching staff is still figuring out, like, we don't need our D really to score, even though we got a lot of guys that can, but then also trying to figure out these line combinations, because they did change for the last period the lines a bit. Yeah. And obviously they were able to get a little bit more touches. So are those the lines that we're going to see to start UNC, or are they going to go back to what they did the previous 5 periods, which if I'm leaning one way, I want to see what they did the previous 5 periods and give those guys a chance to mesh together.
It's going to be really exciting to see just for that season opener, especially because you're playing a D2 team in UNC. But, at the same time, though, don't underestimate what this team brings to the table. This is a program that's really on the uprise. They're going to be a D1 team next year. With the way, it seems like that school is really just investing into the sport of hockey. What is it, like a $25 million innovation they're looking into for a new arena there?
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. Rhett's usually good with these little pre-season pep talks, former Coach McGibbon. But obviously, the biggest thing though, you do want to see the team come out, and hopefully for the new guys, they're not going to be awestruck by. It's going to be a sellout crowd, especially playing a big name school too.
Yeah, and homecoming weekend,
exactly.
Wild.
Yeah, they did, and they brought in a coach too that I think. Like he knows big moments. I don't know if you guys have looked into Coach Rice much at all, but 20th overall pick. All right, He was in a trade that involved the Moose, Mark Messier. He was a captain for Team Canada in World Juniors. Like, this guy's been in some spotlight opportunities. So going into it, I think, having a guy that had a pretty solid NHL career overall, and anytime that you have a guy that was a first-round pick, like, he knows what pressure's all about too. And he's played in big cities like New York. He played in Edmonton too. Anytime you're in a Canadian market, it's going to bring that with you. He's a Kitchener guy, so he's right in the the hotbed of hockey as well in Southern Ontario. So he, if anybody, is going to get this UNC program. It sounds like, with that amount of money that they're investing, they're not interested in only being like an ACHA D1 contender. Not like they just want to win the ACCHL every year. They want to be a D1 contender. And then if you're putting that much money in, you're probably thinking bigger dreams than that.
Yeah.
Which is wild. Like,
I love it.
When you were playing here, Rhett, were there this many programs around? And, like, did you ever see hockey growing down here in the South the way that it has?
I think there's always been a fair amount of programs around here, but it's not like D1 programs.
Mm-hmm.
So, you think you've got George Mason, which is now a D1 program, and you had other schools like Richmond had a school, and you had your ACC teams that had programs as well, UVA, JMU, and whatnot. But it's good to see, like, UNC growing, and I give the Hurricanes a lot of that credit.
Yeah,
right.
Of course.
North Carolina in that area is turning into a hockey state. Like, it's doing a great job. Like, and it's crazy to think too. Like, they're the only major league team in that area. Like, you have to go further south to get to the Panthers. They don't have a baseball team.
Yeah.
Like, it blows your mind. You think North Carolina, the state, would have a pro baseball team.
Yeah.
But they don't. So, college football town, but when it comes to professional sports, they love their Hurricanes, and I think the Hurricanes is a big reason why UNC, having seen that outdoor game and how many people came,
Right.
they're like,
Yeah, so
hey,
true, huh?
we can turn this into something. Like, college hockey could thrive here, probably at an NCAA level.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah, and I think all other schools around too, like, I mean, they have great media teams and just great social media coverage of what's going on with the programs down there. I mean, I think of South Carolina, Alabama, even Auburn's got a pretty good program running. I think that and NC State too. I mean, I think that UNC taking this big step. I've just seen a lot of different coaches and everything saying this is great for college hockey in the South in general because this is we're at schools that have the means to be able to make things like this happen. And who knows, it could spark something bigger.
Yeah.
I could see the ACC turning into a D1 hockey program over the next 10 years.
Yeah, I can see. I
It would
mean,
take
especially
Football's in
you
the
think
thing.
about,
Ayo.
but you think about all the schools that are joining the ACCHL,
Yeah,
that
that's true.
the Division I newly named conference. A lot of them, you're well, I could see them taking off and eventually, like you said, forming NCAA D1 programs. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now looking at this weekend, though, they started the season with a win, but then they lost 2 to South Carolina, which, granted, is the AAU D1 national champions. But, they've had some tough games to open the season. And I think the last game they just played against South Carolina, they were down 3-0. They came back to make it a 5-4 game. They still lost, but, they're facing adversity early. They're playing tough opponents early. And if you look at, the articles that they've written, their new head coach is this isn't good enough. We're holding them to a high expectation here if we want to reach, the standards that we want to get to. So I think, like you said earlier, a team comes in, it's their World Series. They're playing an ACHA D1 team. They're going to come in firing. So I think that, it's a great game for Liberty to figure out what's going on, really, get your feet under you, especially you have this game and FGCU before you really start facing your D1 opponents. But at the same time, it's not going to come easy. There's going to be teams that want to beat you more than anything.
Yeah, it's all about the rev up, right? And I think right now Liberty did a good job with the progression. For UNC coming in, I know they're moving to D1 and new head coach, new team, trying to adjust and start working their way through the merger to come up. So I think they're trying to go through their own set of adversity to start the year. But Liberty right now, trying to feel like we said earlier, trying to figure out that chemistry. And so I think this is a great game, especially on homecoming weekend, to start getting those little things fine-tuned and ready because the schedule just keeps picking up from here. And so, this is a prime opportunity for Liberty to kind of showcase, like, yeah, the expectations a lot of people had about us coming into this year, like, they're well deserved.
Yeah, and it's a lot too. I mean, I think if you're Liberty also, you're like, don't overthink this. Like, just do your job this weekend. You know, you have a team that's coming in hungry. It's your home opener. You have all these new guys that want to prove themselves and have great games, have great debuts. But I think if everyone's just sticking to your role and really focusing on the task at hand, which is, you know, really figuring out what this team is and sticking to your systems and everything, I just think that, I mean, they have enough talent to get the job done, and it's going to be a good one.
That's, you know, it's funny. This weekend doesn't worry me. Next weekend worries me a little bit because you get all these new guys that come in and they just hear, all they're thinking is different division, Division 2. Like you hear, this is Division 2 team. So they're going to play UNC. There's a skill gap, right? Liberty on paper should win this. They will win this. Mm-hmm. You go into next weekend, you're playing against one of the crown jewels of the Division 2 level. Mm-hmm. And they play a team game. Like, they are a team. They're a good team. They've been together. That game worries me a little bit. Like, Liberty needs to think of them as not a D2 opponent. Like, this, we're playing against a good D1 team.
Yeah,
it's going to be a good challenge.
Their system, kind of, especially the way they transition the puck with a lot of speed, reminds me a lot of Adrian.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. They're a very heavy puck possession team. So, but before we start talking about FTC, which I know we'll have a lot to digest to, like, Liberty, just come in, handle business, right? Like, and don't try to get too cute or try to go for that highlight reel goal, because at the end of the day, they all count the same, right? So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, we just talked about FGCU. It's a perfect transition to men's D2.
Oh,
They're going to be facing FGCU that same weekend, too. But first, they have to go up against Delaware, their home opener this weekend. And, you know, it's going to be a big one because they have some newcomers, too, especially on the back end. They do have 17 skaters returning, but they only had 3 returning defensemen. So they're kind of, you know, figuring out things as well. So Delaware, that's Thursday and Friday. And they beat them both times last year. But, you know, Delaware, I feel like, is a good little warm-up for them. You know, it's not a gimme, but it's not going to be the same challenge that FGCU is. So it's a good week to really, the same thing, get your feet under you before you face a really good team in FGCU the next weekend.
Yeah, and even though they're men's D2 playing Delaware for their home opener, like, obviously similar to what we said about men's D1, their schedule's just going to keep slowly progressively pick it up. Like, I mean, talking about it, 14 of their 14, they have 14 opponents this year. 13 of them were ranked in their respective regionals, and then 8 of them made nationals last year, right? So, like, this is a loaded schedule for men's Division 2 to really kick things off. And, like, Delaware, like Andy just said, it's not a gimme game. This is a team that, even though they're not in the same conference anymore, this is a rivalry game, right? Like, Liberty and Delaware, special, not just for men's D1 but men's D2, go back a long ways, right? Like, they consistently play each other. So, like, this is a game where Delaware, they're looking to get on the right foot too, and, like, because they know a win versus Liberty could help them propel them into that regional ranking spot that they want to be at regionals at the end of the year. So, big game for both these two teams coming up.
Yeah, and just looking at the newcomers this year, forwards, you have Anthony Emmy and Aiden Hannigan, and then the new defensemen coming in, James Dubel, Connor Deem, he's up from D3, now skating with D2, McGuire Graham, and Gage Lonergan. So, yeah, a lot of new guys, and this is a team that has an expectation. You know, you just look at what they've done. They're looking to make it back to nationals for the 6th consecutive season. They've had an auto bid the previous 5 seasons. So they're looking, I mean, shoot, they were so close to making the Final Four last year. We don't even need to read that. But
heartbreaking.
Heartbreaker. So if you're just looking at this year, I mean, what is that next step? You know, what is that thing that's just keeping them from being that Final Four national champion D2 team?
Honestly,
it's just lifting the cup.
That's right.
That's all it is.
It's hard to say because, like, I mean, I think there were changes made already in their forward lineup, which some of them I do like. But yeah, I mean, I can't really give you an answer because last year I was the one who said that it's the time. So I feel like the same answer this year. It's the time, right? Like, and the thing that will kind of maybe take time for them can the D core get on the same page and what they need to do, right? Because this is, again, similar to men's D1. A D core, you don't need to score a ton. Just need them to get puck on net and then play a sound stay-at-home defensive role because you have a ton of depth up front that can put the puck in the back of the net.
I really don't think at this point in time where they're at and like how Coach Hughes has developed his team and coached his team that it's anything about a matter of like, hey, we need to do this better. It really comes down to being able to stay healthy, which again, you can't really control.
Right.
All right. They already have they have a great strength and conditioning system at Liberty in place to help them do their best to be there. The other part, which you can't control, is just like, can your goaltender get hot at that time? Like you can't control if you get hot or not. Like you just can't. But if you can get hot and have a hot goaltender and ride him through a tourney, that's a big part of it. Like that's truth. Like anytime you see a team win a cup or a national championship, they've had stellar goaltending above average. And I'm not saying Liberty in the past has had below that standard, but there is like Pat and you and I have seen it. Like we always go back to S.J. Broke for Delaware at the national tournament. Delaware was not the best team there by any means, but they had the dude on a broken foot. I don't know how he did it on a fractured foot, but he did. He played through, was on fire, and they won a national championship solely because of the guy in the crease. And so I think that's the two things. Can you stay healthy, and can you get the goaltending to push you to win a national championship? That's the same thing for D1 too. Yeah. And like it's the honest truth of the matter. Like I think we hear about this team, they are just, they're deep. Sounds like they're talented. Can you get the goaltending and just be in your system well enough to get to that point where you get some puck luck and you move on and you win?
Yeah, I think a fortunate thing for men's D2, returning Lane Scott, CJ Selke, having a new D-core, that was kind of even the talk last year. We lost some big guys on the back end, but when you have that, goaltending presence there, they can communicate to all the new guys, just making sure everything's running smooth there in the defensive zone. So should be good. And yeah, you're kind of right, Rhett, where it's like, the last few years, especially at this men's D2 level, it's kind of just like whoever's the hottest at that point, right? That team's going to take it. Any team within, coming in, let's just say the top 6, all have an opportunity to win. Right? Just like, man, you got to put together everything perfect in the, through pool play, semifinals, and get to the game.
Yeah. Consistently, we've said, and even Chris Lose, who's now at D1, has talked about it. It's the hardest tournament, I think, out of all 5 divisions.
Yeah. But it helps a lot. Like, Coach Hughes knows what he's doing. He's really built up this program. And you have your captain returning, Josh Harrell, the guys wearing the A, Cooper Neal, Josh Martin, Cade Pollock. So these guys, they know what they're doing. They know what it takes to get there. And like you said, it's not like we're lacking in this area. That's why we didn't win this game. I mean, it's just you lose in overtime. Yeah. You're this close to, who knows, you could win the whole thing. But I think that looking at their schedule and the opponents that they're playing this season, that's the best way to get your team ready to make it through a tournament like that. They're playing some tough teams this year. And so if you're Coach Hughes, it's like, we're just going to throw our team in there in the gauntlet, make them face all different kinds of situations so that when you get to the situation where it's do or die, hopefully, they'll be able to pull it out.
I think, too, like an sneaky the radar move that's going to benefit D2 is Josh Graham, too, moving into his assistant coach role with them because he's a detail-oriented guy. That's just what he's good at. Also a former goaltender, a good one at that. And so, like, he can help that team on the little nitty-gritty details throughout a season. You know what I mean? And I really do believe that. I think when I think of Graham as a coach, I think of one of those coaches, and it's not as apparent in the collegiate game because you have people cycling through, but you think of Tortorella in the NHL. He has a shelf life, right, on a team. Like, he's going to work you, and you're going to get annoyed at him. That's the truth of the matter. And then a lot of teams fire him because you can't trade your whole team. But in college life, you have a guy cycling through. Grammy can be on you. He can probably annoy you a little bit, but at the end of the day, I think he's going to make you a better hockey player. And that's what I think he'll do for the D2 level. I think he'll make that team better overall. And so, it takes time, and there's moments where you kind of like you're grinding on each other, but at the end of the day, I think he can help propel that team on to Final Four and a championship.
Yeah, for sure. So they have Delaware this weekend, Thursday, Friday, FGCU next weekend, which if you're D2, that D1 game's probably on FGCU's mind, and then you get the two games
Maybe,
after
yeah.
that. So
Right.
might alleviate that a little bit. And then, after that, Concordia, St. Thomas, and then you just go through this season with a lot of good games. You have 2 series against Lindenwood, 1 home, 1 away. A lot of different showcase type games. Is there any thoughts on the schedule?
I mean, it's just going to be a grind.
It's a
right. Like we
Yeah.
just said it a minute ago. Like 13 of these teams finished in the top 20 of their respective regionals. 8 of them were at nationals last year, and like even thinking about it, like St. Thomas had an auto bid, FGCU had an auto bid, Miami, Ohio was in the championship game. Indiana is the defending national champs. Lindenwood had an auto bid. I believe Northeastern might have had an auto bid too. So like so many of these teams, right? Like. Just like, they know how to play. They all know what it takes to not only make regionals or trying to make regionals, but then also, too, they all want to go to nationals and have a chance at getting that D2 national championship. So, for Rhett kind of said it as like, if this team can stay healthy and, get everyone gelling on the right page early, like this could be a team that goes on a special run, and that's what we're hoping for to see when it comes time to the national tournament in March.
Sorry, with this year, is this the last year of auto bids?
That's
is
what's
this-
been talked about.
Rubbish.
No,
absolute
so
rubbish.
Yeah. So, but we'll wait to get confirmation 100% on that.
Don't do it.
I agree. Yeah, I don't think they
that's-
should, but
that's- yeah,
it
I
doesn't
don't
make sense to expand the regional tournament.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to expand anything, fine, expand the national tournament, but keep those auto bids too, because all right, well, now we're in it. So like FGCU, don't make them go to regionals.
I know.
Don't make Liberty's. We just said has gotten an auto bid the last 5 years. Don't make them go. St. Thomas, who has proven themselves now, they don't need to go. Lindenwood, Northeastern consistently, and talking about the West, Montana State, like. They don't need to go to their regionals, right? Like, just so they can pump a team or risk someone getting hurt to kill their chance going to a national title. Like, because nationals is what it's all about, not the regional tournament. So
And that's why you work so hard in the regular season to be able to get that auto bid. It
Exactly.
kind of takes away.
I know. What's the point then
Yeah.
of being a top 2 team?
Yeah.
that's true.
Truthfully. Yeah.
No, don't do it.
Looking at the schedule, one team makes me smirk. That's MSU Denver. They used to be D3. There's a lot of teams that have moved up from D3 to D2 recently. St. Thomas, another one, back when we went to the D3 Nationals that year. But MSU Denver was in our pool. They cracked me up because these guys, the media team that year, man, this must have been like 10 years ago. It's crazy to think. They had like the best media team. These guys had like music videos for like intros to game like each week. I was watching these guys. They were like rock stars. Like it was unreal. And they were like a highly offensive team. Like they didn't care. They've never seen the defensive zone in their life. But the O zone, they were all about it. But anyways, it just cracks me up thinking about these old. I wish I could go find. If I can find one, Pat, I'm gonna send it to you so you can put it on. On
put
the
it on
pod.
there.
Because
you
they
go.
were just. It was hilarious. Just these videos these guys used to have.
And it's just like hype, just hype videos for them.
Oh yeah, total hype videos.
Like
Total.
brand new every week.
I think so. Like they had, and they were like legit, like lights, like strobe lights and stuff, with like mixed in with highlights and calls. Like I was like, this is unreal. Like I was impressed.
Yeah, the future of sports hype video makers.
Yeah, really,
That's
it
where
was
they're at.
from that era. Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Well, men's D2 gets it going Thursday against Delaware, 9:30 p.m. Women's D1, they just played their first exhibition game against the Washington Pride, 6-0. Brielle Fussy, 1 goal, 2 assists. Brooklyn Beauchamp, 3 assists. Madison Glynn, 2 goals. We had Sammy Peebles and Sauer with 1 goal, 1 assist. Haley Battles, 1 goal. I mean, pretty impressive stat line. Kylie Mebbs, great to see her back out there for the women's D1 team.
Yeah.
That's really great. So I think, Kerr, I just want to talk, like, they have 6 exhibition games before they get things going. What, just walk me through the approach through this whole, it's like a little mini season of exhibition games before they really get going.
Yeah, so with that too, just having so many new girls, like what a better way than take a little bit of the pressure off and just kind of get established in systems and everything like that. A couple, newcomers on the coaching staff too. But also too, like Chris Lowe's just kind of has a mindset of just don't grind them down too early and too often. Oftentimes you get so excited, let's play one of the hardest schedules. And the girls do. I mean, most of their teams they're going to play are going to be the top teams, but just take care of their bodies and just like mentally as well, right? Like before we're airing, looking at some other team schedules, it's like, whew, that is unreal. They're going to get worked, and you're going to have people go down with injuries. You're going to have people that just feel and experience burnout. So have these exhibitions, and then also too, just great recruiting tool, right? Like bring them here, let them see Liberty. We're playing some great teams, so hopefully one or two girls enjoys it, remembers it, and could be playing for the Flames here in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're off this week. They're going to take on HDI September 21st and 22nd. When does the season actually get underway for them?
They don't start until, I think, late October.
Late.
Wow.
NCAA type schedule.
Yeah. And like it's crazy because their first true ACHA game is versus the defending champs, Adrian.
Love it.
So and at Adrian too. So like that, it's going to be interesting to see this team come together.
It's your
again,
former
like,
goalie.
yeah, that's true.
Storylines on tons all over that thing.
So yeah, like it'll just be interesting to see how this team, like Andy just said, you have a wholesale of exhibition games prior to that first matchup, and so now for Chris Lowe's too, you'll get a lot of tape as well, right? Like a lot of those games, you'll be able to go through video, put a lot of things, implement them back in practice, go through your lineup to see like, hey, actually this line worked well in this game, so like just so many things that I think they'll have time to hopefully be a healthy team when they head up to Adrian as they work their way through this exhibition schedule.
Yeah, and that's the dream and goal. And some of the highlight this week, there was a very fun D pairing out on the ice for some shifts of Glenn and Peebles, and they both have rockets for shots. So you could see the point spread that they had over the game there, but when those two are there, it's just like, look out. We just get a little bit of traffic in front, they'll launch a bomb towards the net and hopefully either go in or deflection or put it back off a save or a hit body. But that was exciting to see. As somebody who enjoys a nice shot from the point, putting those two together, that was a strong offensive line right there.
Yeah, Kerr wants to see that all season long.
Yeah,
That's
seriously.
right. Yeah.
I'm with you. I like a good blast from the point.
Oh,
Nothing better.
It's great,
It really is.
yeah, like Sammy, she was practically outside the blue line, but
I
she
saw
just
that,
got
yeah,
a
that was
rocket.
great.
It was crazy.
Yeah. All right. So we have to wait a little bit till we get our next little taste of the women's D1 Flames this season. Women's D2 also had an exhibition showcase, went 4-0 this past weekend. They won 11-2 and 3-1 against Queen City and 6-0 and 4-1 against the Armstrong Arrows. So do we have any first impressions after seeing them play a little bit? Any thoughts about what we can expect from the D2 Flames this year?
Yeah, this team, this might be the deepest and most talented team in D2 women's history. Like in watching them play and like some of the plays they were making, I was like, oh my goodness, like Rena, she talked about it at the end of the year, how she was very excited for this season. And now you can see why, right? Like, and also too, adding a former coach back who's helping on and off, like, she was excited to have Justin Forth help join her coaching staff as some of her assistants can't do some of the things. So having his hockey mind and also national championship pedigree, and he's excited about just helping out when he can. And I think the team is flourishing from that. And a lot of talent on this team, a lot of speed on this team, and returning probably one of her most seasoned groups as well. Like, I think it's huge for them boding well for this season.
Yeah. I think the energy just around this group is huge. And you could even feel it at the end of Nationals last season.
Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't, obviously there's
So
disappointment when you go home, but most of the reaction was like, we're just excited. We
Right.
just can't wait for what this team can be in the future. And now it's more exciting than ever to really see that come to fruition and see like, hey, this is what they were so excited about.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a matter of, you can't wait to sit back and see what this team's able to do throughout the course of the season. So 15 players returning, 6 new players to their roster. And like you said, Pat, I mean, could be the most talented and most deep women's D2 team we've seen in a very long time.
They hanging up another banner, Pat?
It'll be tough. Like, I think once you get to that because that Final Four stage is so tough, and then also too, like how Rhett says, like in the Great White North, they play hockey the right way. They've won, I believe, 5 or 6 of the last women's D2 national championships, like a Canadian school. So like that plays in ACHA D2.
Is that Lake? Which school is that again?
So last couple years has been Sioux College. Before that, it was Boyne. They won back to back, and then before that, it was Lakehead who won back to back as well.
Right, yeah.
So
They're
like it'll be tough for the ladies, I think. But I know Coach Leon.
You got it, girls.
Ready to
get in there.
Kind of just put that to bed and bring that title back to America.
That's right.
I'd say it'll be one of the most dedicated and hardworking teams. I was extremely impressed this summer.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I'm getting fired up by Pat.
Yeah. I was here every day grinding myself this summer, and Kate Walhoff was here every day,
That's
all
right.
day.
Every day.
And so if she doesn't have an explosion of a year, it was all for nothing, Kate. You gotta figure it out.
We got to give her a little German sound on the broadcast, like Kate Walhoff, right?
Oh,
yeah, it just sounds like, intimidating. I was going to say, you guys ever seen the movie, Greatest Game Ever Played? Shia LaBeouf golf movie?
No.
No.
No, you guys
I
have
know
never
what
seen
you're
this
talking
movie?
About.
Man, this is going to fall on deaf ears.
Oh.
But it was there's
laugh.
this part. It's actually like it's a true story, okay? But anyways, it has these like 2 British golfers coming over to play in the U.S. Open like way back in the day, right? And Harry Varden is the name of like the elite British guy. And so there's this other cat though that's from the States, and he's talking about the U.S. Open, and he's like welcoming the British players in, and he says at the end he goes, but I don't think you're gonna enjoy your stay because we're taking our trophy back at the U.S. Open because Britain had won it so long. So that made me think about ACHA, American Collegiate Hockey Association.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry.
No, that's not bad. I got a good story.
It's a
about,
great movie. You need to watch it. It's
Is
a good
it
one.
a Seaborn? How do you say that? A Seaborn?
Seaborn?
Yeah. 2019, we're in Texas.
Yep, I know where you're going.
And speaking of video and media for teams from your story, Rhett, I'm sitting like off to the corner, and they're trying to like cut a 10-second promo of like, all right, we're through pool play now, and the rest of our games will be here at like the Comerica Center, like go Cougars or something like that. And like Buddy on the mic must have done 50 takes. Like he just could not figure it out. And they had like a team, like a media team there, like cameraman, director, producer, and like Buddy on the mic. And he would like do it, and they're like, oh wait, let me try that again, or like let me change this word here. So hopefully they picked it up in the old media department. But yeah, your story there, and when you mentioned the name, I was like 2019 in Texas.
I thought you were gonna
he
go
was
to
struggling.
when they won. And then women's D1 won, and then we were all at the same hotel.
Oh yeah.
It's just Party City, right?
And they came on our bus as we pulled into the parking lot because they were like, yeah! And then the lobby was pretty crazy. Obviously, me and Kurt, we just went upstairs. Like, nope, too much.
Cook some
But-
pork chops. Go to bed. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Here, can I bring up a little news and notes from around the ACHA real quick?
always.
Okay, so we've talked about Ohio and their lack of a head coach. They've named a head coach, Barry Shute. It's not too often, I will say, you lose a head coach like a month before the season and you get an upgrade, but I think they did. That's my personal take. I like Coach Moron is a good guy. I think he's an excellent recruiter, but I think with a team that has so much talent, you got to be able to rein in the horses, right? And I think Barry Shute is going to do just that. So talking about him, Thunder Bay, Ontario guy, that's up there. So guy knows what it's like to survive. I'll just say that. Played 4 years at Miami of Ohio. Was the captain his senior season.
What year?
1996-97.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Yep.
I wouldn't say
not recent.
not overly a goal scorer. So he's kind of like, I always think you get those grinders as your captains and your coach. They know how to teach.
Yeah. Right.
So I'll say that about him. Then since then, he's been head coach at Miami of Ohio, NCAA, for 4 years. Then he went on to work with the Chicago Steel, which is a junior team in Chicago, has NHL kids come through. All right, Leafs have a guy there actually right now. And then went back to Miami of Ohio as a volunteer assistant coach, was the assistant coach at Bowling Green, NCAA, for like 7 or 8 years, and then is just wrapping up being the associate head coach at Miami of Ohio again up until his last season. So now he finds himself as the Bobcats head coach.
Associate of their D1 team again?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this guy is
Good
he's
pedigree.
been behind the bench for a while. He's 51 years old. He's got the look of a hockey player, good-looking guy. And so,
Let's cut that in.
That's right.
Yeah,
The picture will be up there. Don't worry.
so I think they've done well. They've done well.
And what a sweet role to take over too. If
I know,
you're-
right? Yeah.
Like the roster you get, you're not necessarily rebuilding.
For real.
there.
He's probably just like, I don't know what his circumstances were to like being able to take like a ACHA head coaching job, and he probably looked and like, hey, this kid's got some talent. I'll be okay. Yeah, we'll do this.
Yeah. Good little landing spot. Yeah. Well,
Steps into Bird Arena. He's like, "This is what's happening here."
He's like, this rink isn't at regulation
Yeah,
size.
exactly. Did I get faster?
Yeah.
This ring gets slower or smaller.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
right.
Yeah.
Faster in this rink. For real. Dump and chase and death.
Yeah,
Dump, chase, and
exactly.
death.
That's all we need.
yeah. Well, lots of excitement around the ACHA. Guys, it all starts this weekend. Can't wait. D1 and D2 season openers, and we'll be back next week to break it all down, give you all the thoughts. So until then, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.